What if I told you that a young king from a relatively small kingdom changed the course of history forever? That by the time he was 30, the ancient world and reshaped the future of civilization. This is the story of Alexander the Great, one of the greatest military minds of all time. Stay with us as we uncover how Alexander became the unstoppable force that forever altered the ancient world. Welcome to today's video, where we'll dive into the incredible life of Alexander the Great. Born in 356 BCE in the ancient kingdom of Macedonia, Alexander wasn't just a king, he was a conqueror, a visionary, and a legend. By the time of his death, he had created one of the largest empires the world had ever seen, stretching from Greece to the edges of India. But Alexander was more than a mere conqueror. His legacy influenced cultures, spread knowledge, and set the stage for the rise of the Hellenistic world. In this video, we'll walk you through the key moments of his life, from his early years as a prince, to the teacher who shaped his mind, to the astonishing military campaigns that made him immortal. Whether you're a history buff or just curious about what made Alexander so great, this is a story you won't want to miss. Now, you might be wondering, why should you stay for the entire video? Well, Alexander's story isn't just about battles and territories. It's about ambition, leadership, betrayal, and the personal struggles that come with immense power. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand how Alexander conquered the ancient world, but also why his legend endures more than 2,000 years later. You'll discover what drove this young king to push his army beyond the known world, and why, even in death, he remains one of the most fascinating figures in history. So, buckle up, because we're about to embark on a journey through one of the most thrilling and influential periods of the ancient world. Alexander was born into royalty, but he was far from an ordinary prince. His father, King Philip II of Macedon, was a brilliant strategist who transformed Macedonia into a powerful military state. But even more crucial to Alexander's development was his education. From the age of 13, Alexander was tutored by none other than the philosopher Aristotle. Can you imagine that? One of the greatest military leaders in history was trained by one of the greatest philosophers. Aristotle taught Alexander not only philosophy and science, but also ethics, politics, and the art of leadership. This education would prove invaluable in shaping Alexander's worldview. Even as a child, Alexander displayed a remarkable intellect and a fierce ambition. There's a famous story that when he was 10 years old, Alexander tamed a wild horse named Bucephalus, a horse no one else could control. His father, Philip, is said to have remarked, "My boy, you must find a kingdom big enough for your ambitions. Macedonia is too small for you." Little did Philip know, his son would take those words to heart. Alexander's rise to power was sudden and dramatic. In 336 BCE, when Alexander was just 20, his father was assassinated. Many suspected that Alexander or his mother, Olympias, might have been involved, but regardless of the truth, Alexander quickly seized control of the Macedonian throne. His first task? Solidify his power. He swiftly put down rebellions within Macedonia and reasserted control over the Greek city-states. They had been restless under Macedonian rule, but Alexander moved with such force and precision that he quickly brought them back in line. But Alexander wasn't satisfied with just ruling Macedonia and Greece. He wanted more. He wanted to fulfill his father's dream of conquering the Persian Empire, the largest and most powerful empire of the time. And so, in 334 BCE, at the age of 22, Alexander set off on his great campaign of conquest. Alexander's invasion of Persia is one of the most famous military campaigns in history. With an army of around 35,000 men, Alexander crossed the Hellespont, now known as the Dardanelles, into Asia Minor. His goal was simple: to overthrow King Darius III and take control of the vast Persian Empire. But this was no easy task. Persia had immense wealth, resources, and a much larger army. Yet Alexander was undeterred. His first major victory came at the Battle of Granicus, where his forces overwhelmed the Persians and secured a foothold in Asia Minor. From there, he moved south, liberating Greek cities along the coast and defeating the Persians in battle after battle. Then came the decisive moment, the Battle of Issus, in 333 BCE. This battle was a turning point in Alexander's campaign. Despite being outnumbered, Alexander's tactical genius allowed him to defeat Darius III and capture the Persian king's family, but Darius himself escaped, and Alexander would spend the next few years hunting him down. One of Alexander's most impressive feats during his campaign was the Siege of Tyre. The city of Tyre was a heavily fortified island stronghold, and the Tyrians believed they were untouchable. But Alexander was nothing if not determined. He ordered his men to build a massive causeway stretching from the mainland to the island, a feat of engineering that took 7 months. In the end, Alexander's forces stormed the city, showing the world that no place was beyond his reach. After Tyre, Alexander marched into Egypt, where he was welcomed as a liberator from Persian rule. The Egyptians, impressed by his charisma and military success, crowned him pharaoh. While in Egypt, Alexander founded the city of Alexandria, which would go on to become one of the most important cities in the ancient world, a hub of culture, trade, and learning. By 331 BCE, Alexander had marched his army into the heart of the Persian Empire. The final showdown between Alexander and Darius came at the Battle of Gaugamela. This was one of the largest and most significant battles of Alexander's career. Once again, Darius's forces vastly outnumbered Alexander's, but numbers alone couldn't defeat the Macedonian king. Alexander's use of tactical innovations, such as the oblique attack and his swift cavalry charges, allowed him to outmaneuver and crush the Persian army. Darius fled once again, but his men eventually betrayed him, and he was killed by one of his satraps. With Darius dead, Alexander was now the undisputed ruler of Persia, but Alexander wasn't done yet. After securing control over Persia, Alexander set his sights on even greater conquests. He marched east into the unknown lands of Central Asia and eventually into India. His goal was to reach the ends of the earth, to explore territories that no Greek had ever seen. In 326 BCE, Alexander's army crossed the Indus River and faced the mighty Indian king, Porus, at the Battle of the Hydaspes. Porus had war elephants, a weapon Alexander's troops had never encountered before. But Alexander, as always, adapted his tactics and emerged victorious. However, this victory came at a cost. His men, exhausted and far from home, began to resist further conquests. Reluctantly, Alexander agreed to turn back, but not before establishing several cities and leaving his mark on the region. In 323 BCE, at the age of 32, Alexander fell ill in the city of Babylon. After 10 days of fever, he died, leaving his empire without an heir. His sudden death shocked the ancient world, and his generals, known as the Diadochi, soon began fighting among themselves for control of the vast territories he had conquered. This period of conflict eventually led to the division of Alexander's empire into several smaller kingdoms, each ruled by one of his former generals. But even though Alexander's empire didn't last, his legacy endured. He spread Greek culture throughout the known world, founded cities that became centers of learning and commerce, and influenced the course of history for centuries to come. So why does Alexander the Great still matter? It's not just the fact that he was a brilliant military leader, although that alone would be enough to secure his place in history. Alexander's conquests reshaped the ancient world. By spreading Greek culture and ideas across the vast territories he conquered, he laid the groundwork for the Hellenistic Age, a period of cultural fusion where Greek, Persian, Egyptian, and Indian ideas blended to create something entirely new. Alexander's dream of a unified world didn't come to full fruition, but his vision of cultural exchange and curiosity about the world inspired countless generations. His life is a testament to what can be achieved with determination, ambition, and a relentless drive for greatness. In the end, Alexander the Great remains one of the most influential figures in history. His military genius, charisma, and ambition not only expanded the boundaries of the known world, but also left a lasting cultural impact that shaped the course of Western civilization. His story is one of triumph, ambition, and legacy. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button for more captivating content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.